The pen fell from Harrison Caldwell's hand and clattered against the marble table. His face went white. Around him, the lunch crowd at the Harborview Grill continued their conversations, unaware that a billionaire had just seen a ghost. Claire Donovan stood with her order pad, the September humidity making her uniform cling to her back, and watched confusion spread across his features like spilled wine. She'd written 2 words in her careful script, Caldwell Reserve. And somehow, those 2 words had cracked open something Harrison Caldwell had buried 23 years ago. 30 seconds earlier, he'd been laughing. His business partners had joined in when he pointed at Claire's handwriting and said the words that still hung in the air between them. "Did you even finish middle school? Look at that chicken scratch." His Patek Philippe watch caught the light from the harbor windows as he gestured at her notepad. The men in their tailored suits had smiled at his joke. Claire had smiled too, the way she'd learned to smile through 18 years of serving people who looked through her like glass. But her honey-colored eyes had held something Harrison missed: recognition, calculation, and a sorrow so old it had calcified into patience. What Harrison didn't know was that his father's last words were written in Claire's handwriting. In 84 minutes, it would destroy everything he believed. Subscribe to see how one woman's secret rewrote a billionaire's legacy. Claire arrived at the Harborview Grill at 5:30 every morning. She unlocked the front door while the harbor was still dark and the air smelled like salt and yesterday's rain. Her routine never changed. She flipped the lights, started the coffee, and arranged each table with the precision of someone who understood that details mattered. Forks on the left, knives facing inward, water glasses at 2 o'clock, napkins folded into triangles that stood upright like sails. "You're early again," Renee said from the kitchen doorway. She was the kitchen manager, 56 years old with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that saw too much. She'd worked at the restaurant for 12 years. She knew Claire didn't need to arrive this early. She knew Claire was overqualified for this job. She just didn't know why. Claire smiled. The morning shift gets the best light. It was true. When the sun came up over the Cooper River, it turned the dining room gold. Claire moved through the restaurant like she'd memorized a dance. She knew Mrs. Patterson ordered decaf with cream, no sugar. She knew Mr. Chin wanted his eggs over easy with hot sauce on the side. She never wrote these orders down. Her memory held everything: names, preferences, the small kindnesses that made people feel seen. In the employee locker room, Claire kept a locked metal box on the top shelf. Inside were documents she hadn't looked at in years: legal papers, court transcripts, evidence of a life she'd lost. She touched the silver keychain hanging from her belt loop, Charleston Harbor Bank logo catching the fluorescent light. She never explained why she kept it. She never would. At 8:15, Claire refilled coffee at table 7. Through the window, she could see the courthouse 3 blocks away. Its white columns rose against the blue sky like accusations. She was 29 years old again, standing in Robert Caldwell's office at Caldwell & Associates. The law firm occupied the entire 14th floor of the building that used to stand where Harrison's construction site now sprawled. Robert had hired her straight out of paralegal certification. He'd taught her everything: how to draft contracts, how to research case law, how to annotate documents with the specific handwriting style lawyers trusted. "You have a gift for this," Robert had told her once. "The way you organize information, the way you see patterns. You're going to be extraordinary." For 4 years, she believed him. She'd managed corporate filings, maintained litigation documents, prepared briefs that kept his clients out of court. She'd been good at her job. She'd been proud. Then the FBI arrived. Document forgery, trust account manipulation, federal charges that carried 10 years. Robert's face had gone gray. "I need you to do something for me," he'd said. His hand shook. "I need you to take responsibility, just for the forgery. Not everything. Just enough to stop them from looking deeper." "Why?" she'd asked. "Because my son is 7 years old, and if they keep digging, they'll find things that will destroy him." Claire had said yes. She'd signed the confession. She'd stood in that courthouse and pled guilty to crimes she hadn't committed. 18 months in prison, disbarment, a criminal record that erased her entire career. 18 years for months, 11 days since the trial. 3 weeks ago, Mitchell Caldwell had walked into the Harborview Grill. He'd looked at her with those cold eyes. And Claire's panic attacks had started again. Harrison Caldwell arrived at 11:45 with 3 men in suits. Claire recognized the entourage, business partners who nodded when he spoke and laughed when he joked. Power had a specific sound. It didn't need to be loud. Harrison wore a charcoal Brioni suit that probably cost more than Claire earned in 2 months. His Patek Philippe watch flashed when he gestured, $80,000 on his wrist. He moved through the restaurant like he owned it. Maybe he did. Men like Harrison owned most of Charleston's waterfront now. Claire approached the table. "Good afternoon. Can I start you with drinks?" Harrison didn't look up from his phone. The wallpaper glowed for a second before he swiped. A child's crayon drawing of a house and stick figures. The image vanished before Claire could see more. "Caldwell Reserve," Harrison said. "Neat. And water. No ice." The bourbon was named after his father's distillery. Robert Caldwell had built the brand from nothing. Harrison had inherited it when Robert died. He'd turned it into a fortune. "Of course," Claire said. One of the business partners laughed. "You really still drink that stuff? I thought you sold the distillery." "I kept the reserve stock," Harrison said. His voice carried that particular tone wealthy people used with service workers. Not hostile, just absent. Like Claire wasn't quite real. Some things you don't sell. He sounded exactly like his uncle. Mitchell had taught him well. The business partners talked while Claire took their lunch orders. Real estate, development, zoning variances. The usual Charleston waterfront conversation that happened at tables like this. "The Heritage Act protects everything south of Broad Street," one man said. "We can't touch those properties without state approval. In a 1976 statute." 1966, Claire said quietly. She hadn't meant to speak. The words just came out. For pairs of eyes turned to her. "I'm sorry." The man's eyebrows lifted. Claire's pulse kicked up. The South Carolina Heritage Act. It passed in 1966. The 1976 amendment expanded coastal protections, but the original statute covers historic districts. Harrison stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Confusion mixed with calculation. "How do you know that?" he asked. "I read," Claire said. Her voice stayed level. "The restaurant has been watching the harbor for 40 years. You learn things." The phrase hung in the air. Watching the harbor. Robert Caldwell had taught her that code. It meant pay attention. It meant evidence matters. It meant keep records. From behind the bar, Thomas Reed caught Claire's eye. His weathered face showed concern. He'd been protecting her for 18 years. He knew when she was taking risks. Harrison waited until Claire brought the check. She set it on the table in her careful script, itemized, precise, every letter formed with the muscle memory of someone trained in legal documentation. He watched her walk away. Then he pulled out his phone and photographed the receipt. Back in his office, Harrison couldn't stop looking at the image. The handwriting, the specific way she formed capital letters, the distinctive flourish on the R in reserve. It crawled under his skin like a forgotten memory trying to surface. His office occupied the top floor of Caldwell Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the construction site, where his father's original headquarters once stood. Harrison had demolished that building 5 years ago. Progress required destruction. That's what his Uncle Mitchell always said. Harrison unlocked his office safe. Inside, beneath corporate documents and backup hard drives, was a letter. He'd kept it for 23 years. The paper had yellowed. The ink had faded. But the handwriting remained clear. His father's suicide note. Harrison laid his phone beside the letter. Claire's handwriting on the left. Robert Caldwell's final words on the right. The capital C matched exactly. The same forward slant. The same pressure variation. The distinctive R with its legal flourish. The kind paralegals used when annotating contracts. Harrison's throat tightened. His father had died when Harrison was 7 years old. Suicide, they'd said. Financial scandal. Corporate fraud. Robert Caldwell had left a note apologizing for his crimes. And then he'd driven to the Cooper River Bridge and jumped. But now a waitress at a harbor restaurant wrote in his father's handwriting. Harrison's Chinese investment merger closed in 6 weeks. $200 million. The biggest deal of his career. He didn't have time for ghosts. But he couldn't look away from that handwriting. He picked up his phone and called his private investigator. Harrison returned to the Harborview Grill the next day. He brought a document, a real estate contract, 87 pages, dense with legal language. Claire was refilling water glasses when he arrived. "I need to talk to you," Harrison said. Claire's hand trembled slightly. The water pitcher tilted. She steadied it. "About your order?" "No." Harrison gestured to an empty table by the window. "About your opinion." They sat. Harrison slid the contract across the table. "You seem to know things about law. So tell me, what's wrong with page 47? Claire looked at him for 3 seconds. Her honey-colored eyes held no fear, just calculation. "This is a test." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you corrected my business partner yesterday, and because your handwriting looks like something I've seen before." Harrison leaned forward. "So if you're so smart, tell me what's wrong with page 47. Claire opened the contract. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency, finding the page, scanning the text, stopping at paragraph 3. She read for 40 seconds. Then she looked up. "Subsection C," she said. "Fraudulent addendum. It references a trust structure that doesn't exist in South Carolina corporate law. Someone added language about offshore liability protections. But our state statute doesn't recognize those protections. This clause would void the entire contract in court." Harrison's pulse hammered in his ears. "How do you know that?" "Because I was a corporate paralegal," Claire said quietly, "before I was Waitress. And whoever drafted this contract either didn't know South Carolina trust law, or they did know and they're trying to trap you." "Who are you?" Harrison's voice came out sharper than he intended. Claire stood. Her movements were careful, controlled. "I'm someone who used to do this work, and someone who learned that being right doesn't protect you from powerful people who want you to be wrong." She walked back to the kitchen. Harrison sat alone with the contract. His phone buzzed. A text from his private investigator. "Found something. Prison record. Name change. File sealed. Need more time." Harrison looked at Claire through the kitchen window. She was talking to the kitchen manager. Her face calm, but her hands gripped the counter edge. Who was she, and why did she write like his dead father? The restaurant door opened. Mitchell Caldwell walked in wearing a linen suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Claire's breath caught. Her vision tunneled. The water glass in her hand nearly slipped. Mitchell was 62 now. Silver hair instead of dark. Lines around his mouth from decades of calculated smiles. But his eyes were the same. Cold. Assessing. Looking at her like she was a problem that needed solving. 23 years. And he still made her feel like she was back in that courtroom. Mitchell crossed to Harrison's table. He didn't look at Claire, but his jaw tightened just slightly. He'd seen her. He knew exactly who she was. "Harrison," Mitchell said. His voice carried the practiced warmth of Charleston old money. "Didn't expect to find you here. I thought we had a meeting about the merger." "We do." Harrison gestured to the contract. "Just doing some research." Mitchell's gaze flicked to the document, then to Claire, standing 10 feet away with a water pitcher. His smile never wavered. "Research in a restaurant? That's new." "The waitress knows corporate law," Harrison said. "She caught something our lawyers missed." Something flickered in Mitchell's expression. Fast. Almost invisible. But Claire saw it. Fear wrapped in fury. "How resourceful," Mitchell said. He looked directly at Claire for the first time. "Some people have surprising backgrounds." Claire's hands went cold. Mitchell turned back to Harrison. "You know, this property has real potential. Prime waterfront location. If Thomas Reed ever decides to retire, we should buy it. Develop it properly." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a threat. Harrison frowned. "Uncle Mitchell?" "Just thinking strategically," Mitchell said. "The way your father taught me, before he lost his way." Claire set the water pitcher on the nearest table. Her hands were shaking too hard to hold it steady. Harrison's private investigator sent the full report at midnight. Harrison read it in his office. The city lights of Charleston spreading below him like scattered diamonds. Subject: Claire Marie Donovan A. Brennan. Age 52. Criminal record: 18 months, Federal Correctional Institution, Danbury, Connecticut, 2007 to 2008. Conviction: document forgery, perjury, obstruction of justice. Professional history: corporate paralegal Caldwell and Associates, 2002 to 2006. Disbarred following conviction. Unable to practice law in any capacity. Current employment. Waitress, the Harborview Grill, 2007 present. No gaps in employment. No disciplinary issues. Personal. Widowed, 2011. One daughter, Mia Brennan, 31. Resides Atlanta. Subject lives alone. Modest apartment. No significant assets. Notable. All trial transcripts and case files sealed by federal court order. Reason unknown. Subject makes weekly visits to Charleston Harbor Bank Safety Deposit Area. Purpose unknown. Previous employment. Direct report to Robert Caldwell. Deceased 2001. Worked on corporate governance, contract management, litigation support. Harrison stopped reading. His office felt too small suddenly. The air too thin. Claire had worked for his father. She'd been his paralegal. She'd been there during the scandal that destroyed him. And then she'd gone to prison for document forgery. The same crime his father had been accused of committing. Harrison looked at his father's suicide note again. The handwriting Claire had learned from Robert Caldwell himself. What had she protected? And what had it cost her? What Claire protected will change everything. Subscribe and like this video so you don't miss it. Thomas Reed called Claire into his office after the lunch rush ended. The small room smelled like old wood and coffee. Thomas sat behind his desk, looking every one of his 68 years. Close the door, he said. Claire's stomach dropped. Am I fired? No. Thomas rubbed his weathered face. But Mitchell Caldwell was here yesterday, and I need to tell you something I should have told you 18 years ago. Claire sat. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. The night before Robert Caldwell died, Thomas said slowly, he called me. It was late, maybe 2 in the morning. He asked if I'd do him a favor. Claire's throat closed. He said, if anything happens to me, there's a woman named Claire Brennan. She tried to save me. Watch over her. Make sure she lands somewhere safe. Thomas's eyes were red-rimmed. 3 days later, you walked into my restaurant with a prison record and no references. I knew exactly who you were. Why didn't you tell me? Claire whispered. Because Robert asked me not to. He said you'd carry enough guilt. He didn't need us to. Thomas leaned forward. I've owned this place for 42 years. I've seen power destroy good people. But I've also seen courage outlast corruption. You've shown more courage than anyone I've ever met. Claire's eyes burned. Mitchell's going to destroy you. This restaurant, your business. He'll do it to get to me. Let him try, Thomas said. His voice hardened. I didn't protect you for 18 years just to abandon you now. But you need to make a choice, Claire. You can run again, or you can fight. If I fight, I expose what Robert did. I destroy Harrison's memory of his father. Maybe, Thomas said. Or maybe you give Harrison something more valuable than memory. The truth. Claire thought about Harrison's face when he'd seen her handwriting. The confusion. The dawning horror. He was asking the right questions now. Soon he'd find the right answers. The question was whether she'd be the one to give them to him. The health department arrived at the Harborview Grill on Wednesday morning. 2 inspectors with clipboards and cold expressions. They found violations that didn't exist. Improper food storage, inadequate sanitation, temperature control failures. Thomas showed them the logbooks, showed them the certifications. It didn't matter. You're shut down pending reinspection, the lead inspector said. Could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months. Claire watched Thomas's face crumble. 42 years. And Mitchell Caldwell had destroyed it with a phone call. She found Mitchell in the parking lot that evening. He was leaning against a black Mercedes, checking his phone. He looked up when she approached. His smile was practiced. Claire Brennan, he said, I wondered when you'd come. You can't do this to Thomas. I can do whatever I want. Mitchell's voice was pleasant, conversational. You signed an NDA, remember? You testify about anything that happened at Caldwell and Associates. You go back to prison for perjury. That's the deal you made. Your brother deserved better than you, Claire said. Her voice shook, but held steady. Mitchell's smile disappeared. My brother was weak. I built this family's fortune after he destroyed it. And I won't let some paralegal who couldn't keep her mouth shut ruin what I built. Harrison's asking questions. Harrison's a child playing in a man's world. I've controlled him since he was 7 years old. Mitchell stepped closer. But just so we're clear, I know about your daughter, Mia. She lives in Atlanta, works for some tech company. It would be a shame if something happened to her career or her safety. Claire's blood went cold. A car door opened across the parking lot. Harrison stepped out. He'd been sitting there the whole time, listening. Harrison's face had gone white. He stared at his uncle like he was seeing him for the first time. Mitchell's expression flickered, just for a second. Then the smile returned. Harrison, I can explain. Get away from her, Harrison said. Harrison called Claire 3 hours later. I need you to look at the merger documents. The Chinese investment. I need a paralegal's eyes. I'm not a paralegal anymore, Claire said. You're the only person I trust. They met at his office after midnight. The Caldwell Tower lobby was empty. Security let them through without questions. Harrison's office felt like a tomb, silent, cold, full of things that should stay buried. The merger documents covered Harrison's desk, 300 pages in English, another 200 in Mandarin with English translations. I don't read Mandarin, Harrison said. My lawyers said everything checked out. But after what you said about that contract, you want me to look for problems, Claire finished. I want you to tell me the truth. Claire sat down. She pulled the documents toward her. Her fingers moved automatically, scanning pages, checking clause against clause, looking for the inconsistencies that hid in legal language like mines underwater. She found the first problem on page 47. A shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. Cross-referenced it against page 93. Another shell company. Same registered agent. Same formation date. Her pulse quickened. She grabbed another section. The financial statements. Wire transfer authorizations. Routing numbers that led to banks in countries that didn't ask questions. Oh God, Claire whispered. What? This isn't an investment. Claire looked up. Her face had gone pale. Mitchell's been using Caldwell Development to launder money. The Chinese investors aren't real. They're shell companies. This merger is expanding the operation internationally. Harrison stood frozen. That's not possible. It's right here. Claire pointed to the documents. Trust structures that don't exist. Liability protections that violate federal law. This is organized crime, Harrison. Your uncle's been doing this for years. The office door burst open. Mitchell stood in the doorway. His face was red. His hands were shaking. Step away from those documents, Mitchell said. Harrison moved in front of Claire. You're laundering money through my company. Our company. I built this. Mitchell lunged for the desk. Claire grabbed the documents. She ran. Mitchell chased her through the office, past cubicles, through conference rooms toward the executive hallway. Claire's lungs burned. Her arthritis made her fingers clumsy. But she held onto those papers like they were Robert Caldwell's last chance at redemption. She reached Harrison's office safe. Her fingers found the silver keychain on her belt, Charleston Harbor Bank logo gleaming under fluorescent lights. She used Robert Caldwell's safety deposit key to lock the evidence inside Harrison's safe. Mitchell stopped running. He stared at the key in Claire's hand. His face went gray. You kept it, Mitchell whispered. All these years, you kept this key. The hurricane warning came at 2 a.m. Category 3 storm. Unexpected track. Charleston the path. The building went into emergency lockdown. No one in or out until the storm passed. Claire and Harrison sat in his office while rain hammered the windows. The city lights below flickered and died. Backup generators kicked on. The building groaned. Harrison poured 2 glasses of bourbon. Caldwell Reserve. His father's legacy. My father taught me handwriting analysis, Harrison said quietly. He said you could tell a person's character by their penmanship. Precision meant integrity. Consistency meant loyalty. He looked at Claire. Yours matches his exactly. He taught me, Claire said. I was his paralegal for 4 years. He was the best man I ever worked for. Why did you go to prison for him? Because he asked me to. Because he said his son was 7 years old and didn't deserve to grow up knowing his father was weak. Claire's voice broke. Because I believed protecting you was worth more than protecting myself. Harrison set down his glass. His hands were shaking. My uncle killed him, didn't he? Not suicide. Murder. I don't know. The note was in your father's handwriting. The same style he taught me. But Robert never would have jumped. He loved you Too much. Thunder cracked outside. The windows rattled. Claire pulled her arthritis medication from her purse. Harrison watched her struggle with the cap. He took it from her hands and opened it. Your handwriting isn't shaky because you're incompetent, he said. It's because you're in pain. Every day, Claire whispered. Every single day. They sat in silence while the storm raged. Two people carrying 23 years of secrets. Finally ready to let the truth destroy everything. Mitchell called the emergency board meeting 48 hours after the hurricane. The notice went out to all 7 board members with a simple subject line. Chairman incapacity. Immediate action required. Harrison received the email at 6 a.m. He stared at his phone screen while coffee went cold in his hand. The meeting agenda listed one item. Vote to remove Harrison Caldwell as CEO due to mental health crisis and financial misconduct. The board convened at Caldwell Tower at 2 p.m. Mitchell stood at the head of the conference table, wearing a navy suit and an expression of calculated concern. Gentlemen, Mitchell began, I take no pleasure in this, but my nephew has become unstable. He projected emails on the screen. Harrison's name in the sender field. Messages about embezzling funds. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. The numbers were specific. $8.4 million over 6 months. These are fake, Harrison said. His voice stayed level, but his hands fisted under the table. We have witnesses, Mitchell replied. He gestured to 3 business partners sitting against the wall. Men Harrison had trusted. Men who nodded when Mitchell spoke. They testified. Harrison was obsessed with a waitress. He'd been accessing confidential files. He'd been meeting with her secretly. His judgment was compromised. The bylaws are clear, Mitchell said. A vote of 5 board members can remove the CEO for cause. We vote today. Across town, Claire stood in the Harborview Grill and watched health inspectors post a closure notice on the front door. Thomas sat at the bar with his head in his hands. 42 years. Gone because Mitchell made a phone call. The Charleston Post and Courier ran the headline at 3 p.m. Caldwell heir and financial scandal. Family business in turmoil. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Immigration will visit you tomorrow. Enjoy federal prison. M. Renee found Claire in the kitchen. There's more. Immigration officers came this morning, asking about you, about your background. Someone filed a report saying you're using a false identity. Claire's vision blurred. Her chest tightened. This was how Mitchell worked. He didn't destroy you with one blow. He dismantled your entire life piece by piece until nothing remained. The board vote happened in 48 hours. Claire called Harrison 17 times. Every call went to voicemail. She texted. No response. She drove to Caldwell Tower. Security wouldn't let her past the lobby. Mr. Caldwell isn't seeing visitors, the guard said. His face was apologetic, but firm. Claire stood on the sidewalk and looked up at the tower. Somewhere up there, Harrison was making a choice. Family or truth, blood or justice. She'd seen this decision before. She knew how it ended. He'd chosen Mitchell. Of course he had. She returned to her apartment and packed. 1 suitcase. The essentials. She'd done this before. She knew how to disappear. Her locked metal box sat on the bed. Inside were the documents she'd protected for 18 years. Robert Caldwell's handwritten notes. His journals. His confession about covering Mitchell's gambling debts. Everything Claire needed to prove the truth. And everything that would destroy Robert's memory. Renee called at midnight. Don't leave. Please. Thomas needs you. We all need you. Mitchell will destroy everyone I care about, Claire said. Her voice was hollow. I can't let that happen again. Robert Caldwell told you to protect his son. You did that. But Harrison's a man now. Maybe he deserves the choice his father never had. Claire closed her eyes. Robert's final words echoed in her memory. The last conversation they'd had before he died. Promise me my son never knows I was weak. She'd kept that promise for 23 years. But keeping it was killing them all. What Harrison didn't know was that Claire wasn't running. Not this time. She was gathering her weapons. Claire opened the metal box at dawn. Robert's journals lay on top, leather-bound, pages yellowed with age. every entry in his distinctive handwriting. She'd never read them. She'd promised him she wouldn't. She broke that promise now. March 12, 1999. Mitchell asked for another loan. $200,000 this time. Says his investments will pay off. They never do. His gambling debts are destroying him. But he's my brother. What choice do I have? August 3rd, 2000. I falsified the trust account today. The only way to cover what Mitchell stole. Claire will find out. She sees everything. God forgive me. I'm protecting a thief and becoming one myself. January 15th, 2001. Mitchell says, we need to eliminate the evidence. I told him no. Claire keeps duplicate records. She doesn't know it, but she's the only honest person left in this company. If something happens to me, she'll know what to do. Claire's hand shook. Robert had known. He'd known Mitchell would come for her. She called Renee. The security cameras. He said they've been recording for 2 years. Thomas installed them after Mitchell started buying up waterfront property. He was afraid. He wanted protection. I need that footage. 3 weeks ago, when Mitchell came back, Renee arrived 30 minutes later with a thumb drive. They watched the video on Claire's laptop. Mitchell's face filled the screen. His words were clear despite the wind. You testify, you die. Your daughter dies. Everyone you care about disappears. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Claire copied the file. She grabbed the silver keychain from her purse. Charleston Harbor Bank logo gleaming in the morning light. She'd kept Robert's safety deposit key for 18 years. She'd visited the box every week, making sure the evidence stayed safe. Making sure Mitchell never found it. Now it was time to use what Robert had left her. When Claire returned to the Harborview Grill, she found 20 people waiting in the closed restaurant. Thomas, Renee, Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Chin, Eleanor, 74 years old with silver hair and fierce eyes. Mr. Winters, 82, World War II veteran, regular customer for 40 years. We're not letting this happen, Thomas said. His voice was steady despite the bankruptcy papers on the bar. Eleanor stood. I watched this city bury Robert Caldwell with lies in 2001. I watched them destroy a good man because his brother was a criminal. Not again. Not you, Claire. Mitchell has lawyers. Money. Power, Claire said. And you have us, Mr. Winters replied. You've served this town for 18 years. Now we serve you. The restaurant door opened. A woman in an FBI windbreaker walked in. Dark hair pulled back. Claire's eyes. Claire's jawline. Mia? Claire's voice broke. Special Agent Mia Brennan, Financial Crimes Unit. Mia's FBI badge glinted. I've been undercover for 9 years. Ever since my fiancé, the investigative journalist who questioned Robert Caldwell's suicide, died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. Claire couldn't breathe. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were the missing witness, and I needed you to come forward when you were ready. Mia's eyes filled. Why didn't you testify? You had the evidence all along. Because I promised to protect Harrison. I promised to protect Robert's memory. Well, Mom, Mia said, it's time to break that promise. Justice is finally coming. Subscribe to see how courage defeats corruption. The emergency board meeting started at 2 p.m. Mitchell stood at the head of conference table with his 7 board members. Harrison sat in the defendant's chair looking like a man who'd already lost. All in favor of removing Harrison Caldwell as CEO, Mitchell began. The conference room doors burst open. FBI agents in tactical gear flooded the room. Mia Brennan led the team with her badge raised. Mitchell Caldwell, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Mitchell's face went white. This is absurd. I'm calling my lawyer. Your lawyer is being arrested at his office right now, Mia said, along with Vanessa Reeves and 4 members of this board. Claire walked in behind the FBI team. She wore a navy suit, the first time Harrison had seen her in anything except her waitress uniform. She carried a box of documents. Harrison stood. His eyes met hers. Relief and shame crossed his face in equal measure. I'm sorry, he whispered. I had to coordinate with the FBI. I couldn't tell you. I know, Claire said. Mitchell lunged toward the evidence box. 2 agents restrained him. He fought them. His southern charm vanished. All that remained was rage. She's a convicted felon. Mitchell shouted. She signed an NDA. This is revenge. The NDA was fraudulent, Harrison said. His voice carried across the room. My father left Claire evidence specifically to expose you. She's been protecting me for 23 years. She went to prison to keep me from learning that my father was weak. But he wasn't weak. He was loyal to a brother who betrayed him. Claire approached the table. She set down Robert's journals, the bank records, the wire transfers, the restaurant security footage showing Mitchell's threats. Your brother died because of you? Claire said. Her voice was calm, steady. He falsified documents to cover your gambling debts. He destroyed his career to save you, and you thanked him by framing him for everything and watching him die. Mitchell's facade cracked. He was going to expose me. He was going to ruin everything. The confession hung in the air. The board members stared. The FBI agents recorded every word. Mia spread the documents across the conference table. IRS forensic accountants flanked her with laptops and printed evidence. Between 1998 and 2001, Mitchell Caldwell embezzled $43,847,392.18 from Caldwell and Associates, Mia said. Wire transfers to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, and Singapore. Each transaction carefully structured to avoid federal reporting requirements. She projected bank statements on the screen. Mitchell's signatures covered every page. After Robert Caldwell's death, Mitchell continued the operation. He used Caldwell Development to launder money for the Caruso crime family out of Savannah. We have $127 million in fraudulent development projects documented since 2010. Shell corporations, fake investors, real estate deals that existed only on paper. The Chinese merger, Harrison said. His voice was hollow. Expansion of the operation, Mia confirmed. Vanessa Reeves knew. She facilitated the shell company structure. We have emails, phone records, bank statements. The IRS accountant stepped forward. We also have testimony from 3 members of the Caruso family already in federal custody. They've been cooperating for 6 months. Mitchell Caldwell's name appears in 847 separate transactions. Mitchell tried to run. He made it 3 steps before agents tackled him to the floor. His silver hair came loose. His expensive suit tore. The Southern gentleman disappeared entirely. I want my lawyer, Mitchell gasped. Your lawyer is being arrested for conspiracy, Mia said. So is your accountant, and your real estate broker, and 2 Charleston City Council members who took bribes to approve your development projects. Handcuffs clicked shut around Mitchell's wrists. 4 board members received the same treatment. Vanessa Reeves was arrested in the lobby. She'd been trying to flee when agents intercepted her. Outside the courthouse, media cameras created a wall of light. Harrison stood at the microphone with Claire beside him. His hand found hers. She didn't pull away. Claire Donovan has more integrity than everyone in that boardroom combined, Harrison said. His voice carried across the crowd. She sacrificed her career, her freedom, and 18 years of her life to protect my father's dignity. She went to prison for crimes she didn't commit because a dying man asked her to protect his son's memory. I mocked her handwriting. I treated her like she was invisible. I was wrong about everything. Claire stepped forward. Your father was a good man who made one mistake. He loved his brother. That loyalty killed him, but he also loved you. Every choice he made was to protect you. Harrison pulled Claire into an embrace. Cameras captured the moment. A billionaire and a waitress. Their shared history written in matching handwriting and 23 years of silence finally broken. The image went viral by nightfall. Mitchell Caldwell received 35 years in federal prison, $180 million in fines and restitution. No possibility of parole. Vanessa Reeves got 12 years. Disbarred. Her corporate law career destroyed. The 4 board members received sentences ranging from 8 to 15 years. Claire received $4.2 million in restitution. Stolen wages, legal fees, punitive damages for wrongful imprisonment. The federal court officially cleared Robert Caldwell's name. His death was reclassified from suicide to murder by coercion. His legacy was restored. Harrison liquidated Caldwell Development. He created a victims' restitution fund that paid back every person and business Mitchell had destroyed. The fund totaled $89 million. Claire's office overlooked Charleston Harbor from the 20th floor. The Robert Caldwell Foundation for Workers' Rights occupied an entire floor, glass walls, modern furniture, and a mission statement carved in stone in the lobby. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Her old Harborview Grill uniform hung framed on the wall behind her desk, a reminder of where she'd been, a promise about who she'd never forget. The foundation had helped 43 displaced professionals restart their careers. They'd funded legal defense for 17 wrongly accused workers. They'd lobbied Charleston City Council until Claire's law passed. Protections for whistleblowers who reported corporate fraud. Harrison visited every Thursday. Not romance. Something better. Partnership. Trust. The relationship his father and Claire once had, built on shared purpose instead of power. He'd rebuilt his career as a whistleblower advocate. He taught corporate ethics at the College of Charleston. His students called him the toughest professor on campus. He considered it a compliment. Thomas Reed's restaurant thrived again. The Harborview Grill now trained previously incarcerated workers, giving them the second chance Claire had once needed. Renee was general manager. She'd quadrupled the staff and the revenue in 6 months. Mia transferred to Charleston's FBI field office. She lived 3 blocks from Claire's new apartment. They had dinner every Sunday. 23 years of missed conversations slowly filling in the gaps. "You could have told me," Claire said during one dinner. "You needed to choose justice on your own terms," Mia replied. "Not because your FBI agent daughter pressured you. I would have done it sooner, but it wouldn't have meant the same thing." Claire realized Mia was right. Some choices only mattered when you made them freely. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Georgia State Prison return address. Heavy paper. Careful handwriting. Claire recognized it immediately. Her father's penmanship hadn't changed in 23 years. Kenneth Brennan, serving 20 years for wire fraud. The man who'd testified against her at trial. The man Mitchell had paid to lie. The man who'd chosen money over his daughter. The envelope contained one sentence. "I'm sorry. Please come. I have information about Mitchell's earlier crimes. Information that could help others." "Dad." Claire held the letter. Her hands didn't shake. She felt nothing. No anger. No forgiveness. Just exhaustion. 23 years of silence. Some wounds didn't heal with letters, but maybe some did. She put the envelope in her desk drawer. Unopened. Not ready yet. But someday. Maybe someday. September afternoon. Rain clouds clearing over Charleston Harbor. Claire walked past a waterfront cafe and saw a young waitress taking orders. Her handwriting was shaky, arthritis visible even from a distance. Claire left a $500 tip and her business card. "You're better than they see. Call me." She'd been invisible. She'd been broken. She'd been silenced. But she'd survived. And now she made sure others did too. Thank you for watching this story of dignity, sacrifice, and justice. If it moved you, please subscribe. We share 3 new stories every week about everyday heroes who changed everything. Leave a comment telling us what courage means to you.